So our next presenter is Alvin Irby. He is a former kindergarten teacher turned award-winning social entrepreneur, comedian, and author. As founder and chief reading inspirer at Barbershop Books and winner of the National Book Foundation's Innovations in Reading Prize, Alvin creates child-friendly reading spaces in barbershops and provides early literacy training to barbers. Alvin also provides nationally recognized cultural competency training and keynotes to school districts, library systems, and nonprofits. His TED Talk, Inspiring Every Child to Be a Lifelong Reader, has been viewed over 1 million times. Alvin's debut children's book, Gross Greg, combines his passion for early literacy and humor. Alvin holds an MS in General Childhood Ed from Bank Street, and an MPA from the NYU Wagner School of Public Service. Yay, that's what I have in common with you. And a BA in Sociology from Grinnell College. Welcome, Alvin.
Thank you. So when I taught first grade in the Bronx, one day during math, we had finished up a mini lesson, and I was walking around working with some of the students, kind of working with them one-on-one, and I heard something on the rug, and when I walked over to the rug, what I saw was one of my students balled up in a fetal position, weeping. And I reached down and I kind of patted him on the shoulder, and I said, I feel like maybe something may be going on that doesn't have to do with math, And I said, would you like to, come out in the hallway and speak with me? And he said, yes. And so we walked out in the hallway, and he said, Mr. Irby, my grandpa left my grandma, and my dad left my mom. And I said to myself, you know what, if I had all that in my head, I wouldn't be able to focus on math either. I said, don't even worry about math today. I'm going to put a chair in the hallway, put your foot in the door so I can see it. And cry as long as you need to. That's what I told him. Cry as long as you need to. Don't worry about math. And, as I reflected on that moment, one of the things that I've thought about is how so often schools, curriculums, create environments that don't allow or discourage teachers from recognizing the humanity of students, and especially black children. No, you can't sit in the hallway and cry because you're behind in math. No, you can't sit in the hallway and cry because life is tough and you need to toughen up, right? I need to give you some tough love, right? But that's not how often white children are treated when they're having a bad day. We're thinking about, well, let's find out what's going on and how can we support you. And so I want to start with that story because, the work that I do with Barbershop Books is really about affirming the humanity of black boys. Someone asked me a few years ago, why am I so concerned about helping black boys read? And I told them because I want black boys to be free to realize their full potential. And, when you can read, you get to be in control of your learning. And when you can't read, then you are dependent on others to kind of decide for you when and what you learn. And so the work that I've done with Barbershop Books over the last few years, we're very, very particular about how we describe the work. Our mission is to help young black boys identify as readers by connecting reading to a male-centered space and by involving black men in boys' early reading experiences. When I explain to people, what we're doing, because sometimes people hear Barbershop Books and they think, oh, you're just putting children's books in barbershops. And I'm like, no, it's deeper than that. It's much deeper than that, right? I was very intentional about how we display the books. Kids who hate reading, right? There's nothing about the spine of a book that's going to make them want to run across a room. Right? And I have to, like, and when I have these trainings with barbers, you know, I ask them, raise your hand if you ever have known a kid who was bitten by a dog, right? If you know a child who's been bitten by a dog, if you have a dog, it don't matter how cute your dog is. It doesn't matter how nice you say your dog is. Just the sight of a dog creates such an intense level of anxiety and fear in children. And guess what? There are a lot of children walking around with reading trauma to the point that when they see a book, physiologically, they literally are having an attack. And while that's happening, someone's telling them, well, you need to read out loud, or you need to do this. But they're not taking the time to think about, well, what are the experiences that inform how this child is even viewing or perceiving books or even a particular reading experience. And so, you know, I talk to educators, I talk to principals, we talk to librarians and barbers about this work of helping children identify as readers. Also, carving out a space that's specifically for children. You know, one of my pet peeves in doing this work is having people constantly refer to black boys as young men. Like, and black people do it, white people do it. People are always saying, oh, you're doing a great job helping our youth, helping our young black men. And I'm like, no, these children are 4 to 8. These are children, these are boys. And there's a lot of undoing of these kind of, and it's dehumanization. That is really what it is. A failure to really recognize them as children. That's really dehumanization. We're not, because when you don't see someone as a child, that means that you then can wrestle them to the ground like they're a grown person. Or you can shoot them because you somehow feel threatened because you thought they were a full-grown adult even though they were 10. And so, you know, sometimes people see some of our books and they say, wait a minute, you need to have more black authors or more, and they say, well, you know, well, how did you get these books? And I said, we asked little black boys what they like to read. And then we bought the books that they said they like to read. Right? And so, and then they usually are like, oh, okay, that's a good strategy. You know, like, I get it that some people are super black. I get it. But for the work that we're doing with Barbershop Books, it's really about ensuring that a kid, when they're in the barbershop, they want to get up on their own, whether the parent is involved or not, even whether the barber is involved or not. We want to put the books that are going to make a child want to get up out of their seat and go engage with a book. Creating experiences that cultivate their intrinsic motivation to read. So much money is being pumped into interventions that require some specialized adult to be there. And what Barbershop Books invites educators to do is to think about how can we create experiences that cultivate a child's intrinsic motivation to read and learn. This is a picture of a kid in the Brooklyn barbershop called Levels on Fulton Street. He didn't know anybody else was around. He was just getting his read on, you know, on a particular day. This is a barber shop in Maryland with a barber up there. You know, this work, again, I said, is about connecting men to boys' early reading experiences and involving men, connecting reading to a male-centered space and involving men in boys' early reading experiences. So this is a picture of a family at a Levels on Lexington in East Harlem. This is a picture from a shop, I believe in Ohio. But, you know, all over the country, we are empowering communities, right, to be able to increase out-of-school time reading opportunities and to help more children to really develop a love of reading. And then I'm going to end with talking about a book that I wrote because when I taught kindergarten and first grade, nearly every single book that I was reading that had black kids was about slavery, civil rights, or some old dead black person. And I was just like, I'm a comedian. Like, where's the funny at, right? And the crazy part is that the number one thing children look for when choosing a book is a book that will make them laugh. But when it comes to black children, especially black boys, the first thing we go to hand them is a slave book or a civil rights book. So if the number one thing kids want is a book that will make them laugh, but every time we reach for a book to recommend to a black boy, it's a serious book, should we really be surprised that so many black boys don't like to read and don't identify as readers? So I wrote a book about a little black boy who loves to eat his boogers. You call them boogers, but Greg calls them delicious little sugars. Some people would say, why would you write a book about a little black boy eating his boogers? Well, I want y'all to know that this beautiful booger book is about affirming the humanity of black boys, about showing a little black boy being a little black boy. And what's more universal than boogers? Y'all have been amazing. Thank you so much.
It's good we ate dinner already.
Oh, it's not autobiographical. Yeah. It is not.
Thank you, Alvin.
That's your son's favorite book, Gross Greg?
Yeah.
There are math games on grossgreg.com. You can do addition, subtraction, and fractions with boogers, just so you know. That's not a joke. That's like for real.
I'm about to order it right now. Look at how much learning we're doing. This is amazing. Thank you.